equals to a tripling of the dividend. Not many companies distribute a dividend on a monthly basis.
I put it to you this way. I'm one of the shareholders and one of the big shareholders in this company. So my benefit is the benefit of the shareholder because I'm a shareholder.
What I love to do is introduce the right people to the right people.
I assemble the smartest people I can think of or reach out to carry that conversation, and that's exactly what I've done today.
Please give my panel a round of applause. Welcome.
Okay, my next guest is the chairman of both Gran Colombia Gold and Caldas Gold, two incredibly high-grade gold producers in Colombia, Mr. Serafino Iacono. Enjoy. All right, well, thanks so much for joining me today. It's good to see you, and I'm excited to get an update from you and share that update with my viewers who are probably relatively up to speed, but a lot's changed and a lot's happened recently. So I'm sitting down with Serafino Iacono, the chairman of Gran Colombia Gold and the chairman of Caldas Gold Corp. And so just to kick us off, Serafino, let's talk about Gran Colombia. For anybody who's not familiar with the story, I want to get into the recent news you guys have put out and some very exciting developments. But before we jump into that, give us the quick elevator pitch for anybody who's completely unfamiliar.
Sure. No, well, Gran Colombia is a company that is focused on production, development in Colombia, but also with projects in other countries, in Canada, in Guyana, and mostly Guyana and Canada, and now in a project in Spain that we also got involved indirectly. Gran Colombia itself is the largest producer of gold in Colombia right now. This year, production will be 240,000 ounces of gold. We are sitting on probably one of the best mines that, and it's not even a concession, it's private property in Colombia, the Segovia project, plus we own 54% of one of the largest developments right now in Colombia, which is Caldas Gold and the Marmato project with 6 million ounces of gold. To give you an idea of the mine, we are in the top 5 grades company producer in the world. So our grade of 15 to 17 grams per ton puts us in the category of one of the top world producers as far as grade. It's a company that has gone through a tremendous change in the last 6 years. It was a company that started with very well in the 2010 as a developing project. We went through the bad times of gold going down to $1,000 an ounce, and but we managed to take a company that had a lot of debt when we started in 2010 with about $150 million in debt. Gold at $1,000, very expensive production cost. And through times and fixing things, we took a company from being almost to the verge of being bankrupt to being a company that today is sitting on $100 million US in cash, a company that has taken its debt down from 150 million down to $35 million, and keep on bringing down the debt. And a company that is growing on reserves, it's growing on projects, and has become a very low-cost producer.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's so just to back up on a couple of things there, that was the story of Gran Colombia for, call it like the previous decade. You guys were the comeback kid, and it was this amazing turnaround story, purchasing the Segovia mine in 2010, going through the most atrocious gold bear market that most investors in the gold space have ever seen. And today being, top 5 gold producer globally, largest gold producer in Colombia, $100 million in cash, over I think $138 million in cash, very healthy balance sheet. And now the story is different, right? Because if it was the turnaround story for the previous decade, now it's all about growth and prospect. shareholders in Gran Colombia get exposure to some amazing growth stories, which we're going to get into. But just recently you put out your Q3 results, and I want you to touch on, Serafino, any highlights that you want to make sure investors know about.
Well, we had a fantastic third quarter in the company. The greatest highlight that we have is that our debt gets reduced. Our production is steady and going up. And the most important thing is that we're building a pile of cash, and the company's investments that we did outside from the excess cash that we have created in this company, besides what we have sitting in our treasury, have turned out to be great investments. Caldas Gold is one of these assets. We took a hidden asset that we had in Gran Colombia, giving us zero value to our investors, and today is an asset that is worth $230 million, out of which 54% belongs to us. It's a project that is fully financed, so it's going to be ready to develop. It's also a project that started with 25,000 ounces. We're already this year, even with the epidemic. We took the project to being to 27, close to 30,000 ounces producer already. Next year is going to go to 50,000 ounces, and by 2023 it's going to go to close to 200,000 ounces production. So that investment that was worth zero to our investors today is an investment that has created over, for us, net to Gran Colombia, over $100 million US in securities and holding of a company. Same thing that we did with Goldex. And Goldex is one of these companies, 6 million ounces of gold in Guyana. We're the largest single shareholder. It was an investment of $15 million, which today is worth $60 million. So what has happened that has changed in this company? This company went from being a little ugly duckling to becoming now a company that not only is growing internally and it's creating value for the shareholders. And when you look at it, even though the market still is starting to appreciate us more and more, it's a company that when you compare us to other companies, I mean, I look at companies that have 100,000 ounces in production and $1.5 billion market cap. We are actually a very inexpensive value-wise, with an incredible value attached to it. When you have a company that has over 100 million US in cash, plus about 200 million in securities, and it's still producing 250,000 online to produce 250,000 ounces of gold this year. So, and it trades at 1.5 times EBITDA. So that's the value.
Yeah, and that's, it's so critical to focus on that. Everybody who watches my videos and reads my newsletter knows I harp, it's people over everything investment strategy. And it really is the story of Gran Colombia. It's a management team who did what you told shareholders you were going to do, right? And shareholders have been rewarded for that. And the team, yourself, obviously Lombardo Paredes and your CFO, Mike Davies, you're at the helm. And so more highlights from that Q3. You guys generated $113 million in revenue, record for the company, $56 million EBITDA in Q3, another record for the company. And a significant piece of news is that you've adjusted your dividend.
That is exactly where we were trying to head ourselves. We had a lot of pressure from people. We wanted to get our feet wet in the beginning of the story. Number one, we wanted to get the company where it is today. A company that is comfortable, a company that we know that if we make a promise and we're going to deliver something, it's going to be delivered with sustainability, not just to make a show. So the dividend was a very important part of that stage. Okay. So the first stage was get rid of debt. Second stage, become comfortable with the company, grow. stabilize yourself, grow internally like we did by expanding to other projects. The third stage that we did was, let's start getting our feet wet with a dividend, which we did. It was a 1% dividend. It wasn't very generous, but it was done 4 months ago at the end of the day.
Yeah.
We wanted to get our feet wet, feel comfortable with it, wait for this quarter. And in this quarter, we feel that now we could do two things. Number one, be a little bit maverick than the rest of the other guys. And instead of paying a dividend, I mean, I put it to you this way. I'm one of the shareholders and one of the big shareholders in this company. So my benefit is the benefit of the shareholder because I'm a shareholder. So I look at it not only as management, and we're not in this company to have a salary or to just have a lifestyle company. We have a company that makes money and a company that serves shareholders and the shareholders' interest. So when I look at this thing, I wanted to be comfortable that we would have a dividend that would be significant in size. That's why we went to with the 18 cents.
Mm-hmm.
But most important, so that people and investors don't forget, it's a dividend that pays on a monthly basis. So every month that you are a shareholder of this company, be prepared to receive a check that reminds you that we're there and we exist every single month. Mm. So it gives you incentive for you to hold the stock, and it gives you incentive for you to be a shareholder and part of this company, because you are now part of a growth that is sustainable. Because when you think about it, this dividend as it stands right now, it's 10% of our cash, excess cash that we're giving. And as we start bringing down the debt that we have from the bonds, every time, it's funny enough, it's the equivalent of what we retired of the bonds that we did about a few months ago. We've retired a whole bunch of about close to $20 million worth of debt on the bonds. It's the equivalent of that cash that we would have paid to the bondholders, which, by the way, I'm also one of those bondholders.
Right.
I'm the largest holder of the bond.
That's right.
We shifted from now being the bondholders that were the guys that helped us in getting this company in shape and where it is, and that was their reward, to now bringing the reward to the shareholders, which is the right thing to do.
And it equals to a tripling of the dividend. It was 1.5 cents per share on a quarterly basis. Now it's, to your comment there, 1.5 cents per share on a monthly basis. Not many companies distribute a dividend on a monthly basis. It's important to note. Now, everybody right now, Serafino, is concerned with geopolitical risk. For anyone who's not familiar with Colombia, talk about that. Talk about your experience operating in Colombia and how your team differentiates with your expertise.
Well, look, we are hands-on. I live in Colombia. I'm married to a Colombian. My kids are Colombian. Our life is there. I believe that if you have to be in a country and you have to operate with an asset as important as what we have, and with 70% of your assets in the country, you have to live there. I mean, I would love to live in Canada. I think Canada is a fantastic place to live. My wife would be even happier. But you have to be hands-on, and you have to be in country so that you understand the geopolitical and the intricacy of a complex country. Colombia is a very complex country. Fantastic country. BBB- rated country. I think better than the United States these days as far as rating. It's a country that has never defaulted on its debt. It's a country that it's open to mining, it's open to business, and it's very familiar with international investment. But it's also a country that you have to be in there and you have to be part of it. And I usually use a very corny expression, but it is the truth. It's the know-how that is important to manage a company, but also the know-who to manage in the country. And the know-who is important, and the only way that you can have the know-who in a country is by you being in that country and being part of that community. And that's what I've chosen always in my businesses and all the enterprises that I've created through the years in Venezuela, in Colombia, in Guyana, in Ecuador, but mostly in Colombia and Venezuela. We always had the know-how and the know, which is key.
Okay.
And living there.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Now, okay, we touched on a few things. The background of the company, where you guys have come from today, being one of the top 5 producers from a grade standpoint globally. We talked about the dividend increase and how you're rewarding patient shareholders who've stuck with you for the ride. And it's a very competitive dividend. And I want to get a little bit deeper into the growth story exposure. The 53.5% interest in Caldas is interesting. Probably going to be building Colombia's next major gold mine. Is that correct? What can investors, Serafino, look forward to from Caldas for the next 12 months?
With Caldas, for the next 12 months, we chose 2 projects, and I wanted to have a balance. Again, Colombia, it's our big growth story. 6 million ounces in resources, still growing. Marmato's going to end up being one of the major projects of the top 4 projects that are being developed right now in Colombia. And right now, it's the only project that is being developed in Colombia outside of Continental Gold that is going into production this month. The next project that's going to come into production, it's going to be Marmato. It's not going to be Quebradona, or it's not going to be Jericho, or any one of the Anglo projects. Those are 2 years, 3 years away from being constructed. We are starting construction in this project next month. We're starting construction. We already started construction. We're choosing the people that are going to develop the project. We're already starting to work and buying equipment, and we're fully financed. So what is the growth story? We wanted to have Colombia, that is the monster, but also wanted to have, for a change, a balance that will come into this. That's why was the choice of Juby as a project. I wanted a jurisdiction that was a little boring, if that's the word that you want to use, being Canada. Not that Canada is boring, but we wanted to have a place that nobody argues. Ontario is Ontario at the end of the day. It's I call it the carrot. It's beautiful, it's tasteless, but it's there. It's real.
Right.
So, but it's a great project. We were lucky enough to get involved, and this was a project that was brought in by the Fiore Group, which is headed by one of my great friends and probably one of the smartest guys in the industry, Frank Justra. And they had acquired this project to develop it themselves. I convinced them, instead of doing another public company, let's marry it, since he is also a big shareholder of Caldas Gold. Let's put it in there so that we create a balance of assets into this company. Canada and Colombia, that will give us 2 great jurisdictions for doing business and to create 2 different projects. When we finish putting into place the Caldas project, the Marmato project, Juby will come into place. So I say, instead of doing another public company that is publicly traded, let's put it, marry it, and that's what we did. What do I like about Juby? 2.5 million ounces, open pitable, in a great jurisdiction. It was a project that didn't fit in the package of Equinox projects. It's been an orphan for many, many years, and we like orphans. Marmato was an orphan for many, many years. Segovia was an orphan for many, many years.
Right.
So I like this orphan thing that people have a tendency to forget or to underestimate. But once you start putting your effort into it, they become real mines. So what do our investors got to look forward? They got to look forward to Marmato, that is 6 million ounces of gold with 2.5 million ounces of proven reserves. A project that every time we put a drilling, we announced 2 weeks ago some drilling results. Those drilling results where we have the best drill hole ever drilled in Segovia, which was 62 meters or almost 6 grams of gold, solid.
Mm.
It was a condemnation drilling hole. We were drilling in a site that we were going to use it as a site for putting waste material on top of it. So we wanted to test the geophysical capability of holding that thing, that the material was there. And as we drilled a condemnation drill hole, we hit mineralization, and we hit 4 drill hole that were condemnation that expanded the deposit 300 meters. So this thing is growing to the east, it's growing to the north. We have 6 million ounces that next year will probably bring another 2 million ounces in the reserve category. And we are expanding the Caldas deposit another 300 meters, and a depth is still open. So this thing can turn out to be a monster of a project, not just what it is, which is fairly big. So to me, that's the immediate growth story of the company.
Yeah.
And then you have Juby, which we're going to start next year by doing infill drilling. It's got an interesting situation because the last time that it was drilled, they discovered these pipes with very high grade. It reminds me very much of what I used to find in Venezuela in a mine that I built that was called Choco 10. It was disseminated gold with these very rich pipes that would come in with 5-6 grams in the middle of 2 grams, 1.5 gram per ton, open pitable material, which changed the scope of the project. We believe that Juby is going to be one of these projects that's going to turn out to be also a new district, which is not that new, but it's going to be a district that people are going to start paying attention in Ontario.
Okay, so just to recap, Serafino, thanks so much for coming on. Investors that are looking for, a growth story, we're talking a Gran Colombia Gold, top 5 grade producer in the world, largest producer in Colombia, just announced a very competitive dividend. And they have access to 3 growth stories that gets you that upside. They're very focused on expanding the resource, as are Caldas. I think it's absolutely worth a look, and everybody should take a hard one at this story. Okay, thanks so much for coming on, Serafino. It's been great catching up with you and hearing it from your perspective.